Hello my beautiful watchers, apologies that you're being robbed of the pleasure of seeing my ruggedly handsome face this episode. Due to a mix-up with Amazon delivery, my new green screen has yet to join me here in California. Oh, the joys of moving. Anyway, happy Halloween! This is my favourite of all the holidays because it's the one thing stopping Christmas from spreading further out into the year full scale like the gangrenous infection it is. Requiring something spooky to review, it seems I must, once again, come crawling back to Mr. Stephen King for my adaptation needs. Yes, I know you all wanted me to do It, but that thing's 3 times the size of the Bible, and I just moved across the Atlantic, gagnammit, so I'm doing Children of the Corn. First published in an edition of Penthouse in 1977, Children of the Corn is a very short horror story that these days can be found amongst many others written by King in a collection book called Night Shift. I'm sure you're all familiar with the author already, but in the very unlikely event that you're not, I've reviewed 2 adaptations of his work already which can give you a good starting point and explain my mixed feelings towards his work. In regards to this story in particular, it's pretty good. It suffers from the exact same strengths and weaknesses of all of his books, really well written and incorporating creative descriptions that borderline on genius, but about cliched and vastly unlikable characters and repetitive plot tropes, though as it is so short that has less chance to become as annoying as it usually does. With some notable exceptions, adaptations of King's books have a bit of a reputation for being not very good, especially the miniseries. And by that I don't mean disloyal to the books necessarily, I mean bad as films, cheaply made, poorly cast and badly directed. And indeed, I have some thoughts in regards to this one. If you're familiar with my track record, you've probably already guessed what my biggest complaint is in regards to this film. Oh, child acting, you are terrible and I hate you! The kid playing Job, the on-again off-again narrator, and the teen playing Malachi are the standout worst of the bunch. The only halfway decent child actor in the whole thing is the kid playing Isaac. I was genuinely surprised that this movie managed to find someone that age who could actually give a reasonably convincing performance like he did. It might even have been a mistake to hire a child actor of his talent, as it brings the epic hokiness of the rest of the cast into unfortunate stark contrast. That said, some people actually consider said hokey acting as a plus for the film, as one of the only ways to enjoy it is via the so bad it's good way of thinking, though I have to confess I've never quite seen the appeal of that the way others do. The narration that Job provides doesn't always match the story, like when he said he wasn't scared right before stating that he was, suggesting that he's relating the story to someone other than the audience, raising the question of who and when. Oh, and by the way, I'm actually well aware that John Franklin, the guy who plays Isaac, was actually a man in his 20s who just looked like a child due to a medical condition. I just wanted to see how many people couldn't even wait until the end of this section to rush to the comments to correct me. Moving on, to put it in a bit of perspective, the entire length of Children of the Corn is shorter than one single chapter of one of King's regular book, like The Shining for example, which should give you an idea of the amount of embellishment that went into this movie. But before we get to that, let's have a look at what it has in common with its Spartan source material. The child population of a small Nebraskan town called Gatlin falling under the influence of a dark religion and spontaneously massacring their parents and all the other adults, then setting up the practice of sacrificing everyone on their 19th birthday from then on. Sometime later, a couple get lost and wind up driving near said town. They accidentally hit a young boy who'd recently had his throat cut for pissing off the other children. They encounter the freaky deaky children and learn about the god they worship, a being referred to as He Who Walks Behind the Rose, apparently a corn-based pagan spirit that guarantees good harvest in exchange for regular human sacrifice. Vicky wanting to leave town immediately, but her partner Bert wanting to have a look around, resulting in her getting kidnapped and him getting stabbed and chased around, eventually finding her and the decaying corpse of a murdered police chief in a clearing in the cornfield. That's about it. Now, I know that seems like quite a short list, but like I said, it's a really short story. That actually covers almost all of it. It doesn't cover it very accurately, but it's there. Speaking of which... An early big change in the film is the length of time since the initial killing of all the adults and how long this town has been run by underage religious zealots. In the film, only 3 years have passed and Isaac was the instigator of the whole thing. In the book, there was a full 12 years between the massacre and the arrival of the 2 unlucky travelers. Apparently, in order to perpetuate their tiny society, they'd taken to breeding very young, so were already on their 2nd generation despite their vastly shortened lifespans. Isaac, being 9, hadn't even been born at the time, the initial instigator of the cult and all the murders was a kid called Amos, who had reached age 19 before the beginning of the book, so was long dead and not in the story. Assuming it's not just another character with the same name, he's still around in the film, but he's been reduced to pretty much a nothing character who gets voluntarily sacrificed near the end. The fact that the majority of the kids in Gatlin had never known any other life explains things like why they referred to the crucified man as the Man in Blue a little better. There's no reason why the kids in the film wouldn't know what a uniform is. Bert and Vicky are already married in the book and they hate each other. Their relationship is on the verge of collapse and they have nothing but venom to spit at each other all the way through. Literally, any affection they showed each other is film only. As somewhat forced and very awkward as their romance was in the film, it was certainly more pleasant with its addition. Bert is apparently a full-fledged doctor instead of a former army medic in the film. It's not harmful to the plot, I guess, it's just different. The sermon that they hear on the radio in the film seems to be a run-of-the-mill Bible Belt affair. In the book, Bert mentions that the preacher sounds strangely young and seems to be bringing up corn an awful lot. Vicky talked about how the church she'd grown up going to had a lot of child preachers and how they'd been used to try to get you to donate more money to them, showing King's famous dislike of the Christian faith as well as pagan religion. I've been trying up until this point to be understanding and forgiving of the film's alterations, as more than the usual amount of tweaking has to be expected when adapting so short a story. However, there are some changes that cannot be justified with that excuse. The first is the appearance of he who walks behind the rose. Apparently in the film he's a mushroom cloud with a face? I guess it's a terrible effect and it's bloody stupid. In the book you don't get a full description of it as it's bathed in darkness, but it's some sort of large monster with huge football-sized red glowing eyes that moves slowly through the corn when it comes to collecting sacrifices. In the book, Gatlin is hundreds of miles away from anywhere else, hence how they'd gotten away with forming an isolated, murderous society there for so long. In the film it's mentioned several times that there's a larger town just 19 miles away. The general idea is, I think, to increase the dread of being trapped there when salvation is so close, but good lord, if that's the case, how exactly has no one passed through until Bert and Vicky came along? Nobody had thought to ask why a town less than 20 miles away had gone completely silent for 3 years. The next and much larger change is the happy ending. In the film, the heroes burn down the cornfield, killing the pagan god and escaping with Job and his sister. In the book, they do not. They die. Vicky is killed by the children and he who walks behind the rose kills Bert personally. Yep, the bad guys win in the book. Vicky's death is particularly gory sounding as the kids rip out her eyeballs before killing her so they can stuff corn in the sockets. It's messed up! I've gone on record saying that I prefer happy endings to stories, but even I have to admit, in this case, wrapping everything up in a happy little package is a straight up betrayal of the original story. You see Bert getting injured by a knife in the film, but they left out him pulling it out and shoving it through the throat of the kid who threw it at him. I guess the film decided that kids killing adults or each other was okay, but seeing a grown man murder a child was just on the wrong side of too far. Even though the book ends with total victory for he who walks behind the rose, he was apparently still pretty pissed at the kids for not catching and killing Bert, forcing him to do it himself. As a result, he spoke through Isaac at the end and told them that he was lowering the maximum age anyone could reach from 19 to 18, forcing about 20 or so of the older children to go into the corn that night to die, including Malachi. And finally, the optional fourth category of Lost in Adaptation that I suspect you all knew would be making an appearance here. Job and his sister are film only. In the book, the only dissenting children are the boy who got his throat cut for some not fully specified transgression, and Malachite's pregnant girlfriend, who wish she had the stones to burn down the cornfield at the end as she watches him walk into it to die. As I mentioned, Isaac wasn't the original leader of the kids in the book. In fact, he's barely in the story at all. He just pops up at the end to relay the displeasure of he who walks behind the rose and let everyone know that the death age has been lowered by a year. Fleshing him out into an actual character was probably a clever move, as he became somewhat of a fan favourite part of the film. So much so, they apparently made a whole sequel about him, which no, I haven't watched because why the hell would I? There's some hint at a subplot about Bert not being able to commit to his relationship in the film, but that doesn't seem to go anywhere at the end, aside from him telling Vicky that he loves her before going to torch the cornfield, and the unconfirmed suggestion that they might be adopting the two non-psychotic children at the end. The mechanic and his dog are film only. There were no adults left alive in Gatlin in the book. Bert and Sarah's attempt to drive away from the town only to end up back where they started, is also an addition. How hard is it to drive in a straight line, guys? In a similar way to Isaac, Malachi is pretty much a nothing character that's given a lot of embellishment to flesh things out into a full movie. In particular, him killing the mechanic, him usurping and sacrificing Isaac, his attempts to use Vicky as bait, and him being killed by the reanimated corpse. It's mentioned that he was the one who killed the kid at the start and was one of the kids who died at the end, and that's about it for him. Due to a combination of not having enough time and not really giving a shit, Bert didn't make any attempt to rescue Vicky after she was taken by the children. He also never did anything as lame as lecturing them on the importance of choosing a religion that doesn't require lots and lots of killing, as if that was all that was needed to undo their fanaticism. Like I said before, both main characters die shortly after arriving in town, so the whole climax of the film is added in. All the stuff about spraying the field with ethanol through the irrigation system and blowing it up, and all that other nonsense. They even threw in a last-minute fake-out twist that lasted all of 5 seconds and was completely pointless. The Dom's final thoughts. All in all, I'd say this would have been a halfway decent example of how to take a short story and stretch it to film length while staying true to the fundamental aspects of the original plot, if it weren't for the stupid happy ending. I hear the made-for-TV reboot is much more loyal, but it's also apparently just competently made enough to not be fun to laugh at, but not good enough to be enjoyable, so most people don't even know that it exists. If you're into so hokey they're funny films, you'll probably enjoy the original Children of the Corn, but if you're one of the apparently small amount of people who have read Night Shift, I'd advise you to stay away from this one. It will probably just annoy you. Hey beautiful watchers, I just wanted to give you a quick reminder that there's a variety of rewards you can earn by becoming a Patreon, including early access to all videos, getting to be a part of the survey about how many people saw the film and read the book, or playing Minecraft with me on my 24-hour server. Higher level contributors can also join the Dom Skype chat room, and best of all, choose future episodes of Lost in Adaptation. However, if right now you are thinking, my goodness the Dom, I can't do that, I had to use up all of my money bribing the guard at the mouth of the underworld so I could sneak in and liberate the soul of my recently deceased corgi, Mr. Fluffykins. Fear not, if you would instead be willing to like, share, subscribe, or a combination of all three, that goes a long way towards helping my channel grow and reach new beautiful watchers. Have a most pleasant day, and I will see you soon.